You're listening to BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good afternoon. It is The Bigger Picture and it's Mira Sivasudi. She was neither a concubine nor the emperor's wife. She was the first lady and the only female emperor of China. Empress Wu, who is said to have ruled the country with an iron fist, is the subject of Dama Orchestra's first original production, Empress Wu the Musical, which articulates the story of her life, loves and times. Promising drama, mysticism, deception, intrigue, sex, murder and madness. I find out how everything has come together from director and set designer Pun Kai Loon and the lead cast member Alex Goh. How are both of you today?
Very well, thank you.
Very well.
You know, Kai Loon, welcome back. I mean, we've had you on, in May 2011 when Dama was staging The Moon Speaks from My Heart, Teresa Teng, her life, her songs. Now, how have things been for Dama since then?
Thanks, Mira. Well, it has been a busy time for us since Moon. Basically because we had about 6 months to do another major project after that in October. That was In Perfect Harmony. Mm-hmm. And that was basically a project commissioned by the Stars for their 40th anniversary celebration. And the theme was large in terms of scale of coverage because we have to talk a bit about the Malaysian country, its achievements. We have to talk about the music scene. We have to talk about popular music among Malaysians. Mm-hmm. So we tracked that musical trend for the last 4 decades, basically. So that was a huge research work in that project altogether.
Right. What did you achieve from it?
Oh, that was a lot of things. For the first time, we got a very multi-national, multi-ethnic cast in the whole production, and we did a lot of songs ranging from Western to Chinese to Indian to Malay songs. And I think the joy in working in that production basically comes from that kind of potpourri of work of different cultures gelling into one whole big production.
Right. And how long did that run for?
It ran for a month, and it was very well attended. I mean, we have full capacity crowd all
Wonderful,
throughout.
Fantastic. I mean, Dama always does good stuff, and in a big way, and in quality-wise, it's always up there. You know, Alex, welcome to the show. I understand that aside from acting, you are a shoemaker in Malacca, besides, of course, having a killer radio voice. Say something, Alex. We're dying to hear your voice.
Thanks, Mira. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem at all.
Yes. I was a shoemaker. I'm not a shoemaker now, but I'm now a consultant for a few footwear companies. Mm-hmm. I guess this acting is my alter ego, I think.
Have you done it for a long time?
Yeah, the last time I did it was 12 years ago.
Okay.
It was my first musical in 2000. It was called The Fantastics.
What brought you back? I mean, after 12 years.
This year
Miracle.
This year I was just itching to do something different other than shoemaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to a friend, and coincidentally he was telling me about this an audition that's opened for Dama. Mm-hmm. And I've heard of Dama for many years now, and I had a very good impression on Dama. So I told myself, I said, why don't I give it a try and go to this audition and see what happens.
And you fit the role. I mean, in terms of looks and everything, he came with the package.
We saw him in Fantastics about 12 years ago. Okay. And what was so impactful for me then was his voice, his singing voice.
Oh, yes.
But I forgot about everything else, though. but having said that, what came out was, I thought that was a very beautiful voice. And Dama had been trying to contact him, communicate with him, so that to ask him whether he would jump on board with one of our shows. That subsequently, after we got to know him, I mean, not acquainted with him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he doesn't know us at all. And what happened was, we were always given the look like, you won't be able to get him. He's very difficult to be reached.
Because he's too busy making shoes.
I'm not sure what he does, though. But having said that, it took us 12 years later, and it was a complete surprise for us when he suddenly appeared from nowhere. Because over the 12 years, we still try intermittently to try to contact him, but always there's a full stop because no one is able to give us the last lap of contact with him.
Right.
You know? And in the end, when he appears at the audition, I said, oh my God, this is a big, huge surprise.
They found you.
Yeah. No, I found them.
You know, Alex, we'll be talking about shoemaking.
Yeah.
Just briefly tell us what you actually do.
Yes, I was
Aside
brought up.
from your alter ego.
I was brought up in a shoe store. My parents ran a shoe store, and that's how I think I got unconsciously got back into shoes. I was selling shoes when I was very young. During my school holidays in my primaries and secondaries, I was always in the store selling shoes, and I remember I did tell myself that I'll never get into
The
a
shoe
career
business.
that involves shoes. But I don't think unconsciously I just fell back into that industry, and and I started to design some shoes, and then and from there I nurtured myself in that industry, and I think I did quite well for many years, and that's how I got stuck in. But I enjoy what I do very much. Yeah.
Very well. I mean, you design shoes, do you?
I used to, but I don't do it anymore. I've got a group of designers that I worked with to create a product proposition for these few brands that I'm working with.
Okay. Kai Loon, this current production, Empress Wu, the musical, marks a first for Dama, actually. It's the world's premiere of an original Dama production. Why did you even go down this path?
Well, we have been doing a lot of adaptations previously from plays into musicals, and we managed to nurture a bit of the transformation ability from straight plays to music. So we harness a lot of those experience, and at the same time we have been doing some original musical works, musical compositions in some of those adaptations. And it's just that the confluence of these two trends came together, and we felt, hey, since we are in some sense mastering the craft of transforming plays into musicals, as well as we are coming out with original composition, why don't we do a full-fledged kind of musical work that's original? And I thought we thought that it was time for us. It's the right time to do something original in terms of music scoring, script work, and also the whole artistic production of this piece of musical.
But why Empress Wu?
She's
I
such
understand
a
there was a Hong Kong TV series on her, and the works.
There
are many.
There are many series in China, in Hong Kong, in Taiwan, and there are a couple of movies of her life as well. What fascinated me to this character is basically her resilience, her tough-mindedness, her visions, and her toughness in terms of surviving against odds. I mean, basically an ordinary person caught up in very extraordinary circumstances, and climbing up from low rank right up to the level of sitting on the throne and ruling over China.
How did you feel when you're the lead actor, you're playing the Emperor, Your Majesty, Alex. You are playing the Emperor, and I mean, when you saw the whole storyline, and when you were studying more about Empress Wu, what hit you most?
Obviously, with the role that I.
Yeah, with the role.
Yeah, with the role that I'm in, the Emperor Gaozong. When I read the script, I began to empathize with Emperor Gaozong. It's a man who has.
You empathized with him,
yeah,
okay?
Empathized with him, because there were certain negative comments about him, but one human doesn't have all bad. I don't think one human is all bad. I'm sure there are some goodness. And while I read the script, I saw how I believed in my own ways that I think Emperor Gaozong actually worked very well with Empress Wu at the time as a husband and wife to actually rule the world. Rule the empire, rule the kingdom, and also the political matters that were set during that time. And I beginning to see that no matter who you are, whether you're an emperor or you're an empress, we're just human beings. Challenges do comes, and urges comes. Our weaknesses is exposed. Our strength is exposed after acknowledging our weaknesses. So I think all the process as a human being that that was portrayed in Emperor Gaozong. Even during the acting, there were certain scenes that there was this scene where I die, and the scene that I've got this conversation with my Empress Wu about our son. Tears automatically came about because of this committed empathy of the emperor, and also the hardship the Empress Wu has to go through. And no doubt it was only rehearsal, but we felt the emotion, between the two, Emperor and Empress Wu. It was very automatic. It wasn't forced. But because and it's a historical figure, and you've got to do justice. There's so many portrayals of the Emperor and Empress Wu. Of course, there's this burden on how to mimic the role well enough, to do justice. But this is a musical. I think there are of course input of artistic flavor.
Of course.
Yeah.
According to Confucian beliefs, having a woman rule would be as unnatural as having a hen crow like a rooster at daybreak. During the most glorious years of the Tang dynasty, a woman did rule. She did very well for herself. She ruled successfully. Did you find it patriarchal in any way, Kai Loon?
I think when you talk about Confucian society, that kind of study of the value system and a woman coming out into power is to a large extent not much different from even present days. It's no different from having Hillary Clinton coming up and become the president of China. Sorry, US. So sorry. Okay.
Yes. That would be an interesting one.
I'm so sorry. I was going to talk about Empress Wu.
Yeah.
And to be the president of the US. Now, what you have got in this situation is you have essentially the same kind of character, a woman, which is even much more tougher in the environment she operates on, which is very Confucian in nature. A woman should be in the house. They're never in public arenas. So in that context, when you have someone like that able to climb up the hierarchy, the ladder, and then sit on the throne, and sat on the throne, it speaks a lot of the intrigues and the drive and the ability and capability for her to climb up that. Even if you talk about modern society, for any woman to be right at the top of the government, it's still very tough. And you imagine during those days, that is in the 7th century, she is able to reach right up to the top and considering herself ruling the empire that covers Persia as well as the north part of China. And that is such a huge leap, in terms of being where she is at the end of the day.
How did the emperor cope with it? Because a lot of men in this day and time actually are in that sort of position where their wives are actually, or partners are actually way up there.
Yes.
How does a man cope with it?
Of course, a lot of research has been put into for myself.
Yeah.
I have been Wikipediaing a lot.
More than Wikipedia.
More than Wikipedia, and more than what I find out, my own interpretation of the Emperor Gaozong is that I think he was not a male chauvinist. Yeah, with the fact that he could collaborate with a woman of certain intelligence and certain wisdom, and allowing her to take over a lot of the political and the government matters, speaks of his open-mindedness as an emperor. And I think he's a smart man who is quite scholarly, and I feel that while watching Empress Wu, the leading female, and how she portray Emperor from the script, so one cannot deny that sometimes we are a bit biased towards a triumphant ruler or a leader if it's a woman. Yeah, and it's a woman, and but I see there's this. I think God made us men and women to complement each other, and I think Emperor Gaozong, like I said, Emperor Gaozong and Empress Wu worked very well as a partner, and therefore there was this. I think there was this. The kingdom, the dynasty was at its zenith at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they can work together, then what does it really matter to the rest of the world, isn't it? That's I suppose key. We'll come back and find out more about the musical Empress Wu. If you have a question for Kai Loon or Alex, text 0162019,000 or tweet BFM Radio.
You're listening to BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good afternoon. It is The Bigger Picture and it's Mira Sivasudi. The musical Empress Wu is coming up. We'll give you the dates. That's starting off on the 27th of September all the way up to the 21st of October. That's almost a month. And we're finding out more about this musical with Pun Kai Loon. He's a director and set designer, together with lead actor Alex Koh. Kai Loon, I understand the Shaw brothers played a huge role in bringing Empress Wu into your life. Could you share that story with me?
Actually, that was quite accidental. My idea of luxury in terms of having to spend time for myself is really to spend the whole day watching DVDs and nobody disturbing me. So I had that one fine occasion where I have that opportunity, sat through the whole day watching DVDs and pick up Empress Wu Shaw Brothers production and watch it. And so that was my first encounter with this character. And what fascinated me was that, oh my God, I didn't know there was this superb personality that has featured in the history, and how come people are not aware of that. That caught my attention, and that kept me going for the next couple of months, trying to find out a bit more about that character. Yeah, and that's how it all started, really.
When you were reading, did you find that there was a biasness by historians on the part of Empress Wu because she was a woman?
I wasn't. I am not. Very knowledgeable in terms of historical figure of Empress Wu, but I think Kai Loon explained to us a very valuable metaphor that when one is not all bad. And the way that Empress Wu is being portrayed is that every actions of hers during that time was her scheme to rise to the throne. Mm-hmm. Imagine she was in the palace at the age of 14 years old. It is impossible, not impossible, but it is impossible actually for her who's been brought into the palace and started scheming at the age of 14. So every action that she got close to Emperor Gaozong, and then she got close to Emperor Taizong, and her relationship with all the ministers and all were basically very very deviant of in her actions. So I feel there is this certain biasness, yes, definitely, and we have to understand. We as human beings, we understand ourselves. We've got certain weaknesses, and sometimes we get very worked up with a certain person's weaknesses than their strength.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that overshadows our open-mindedness towards another human being, and also I think the historians were mainly male. Dominated. Sure. I think, of course, the ideas and the analogy may be can be biased.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was just having this conversation over lunch actually as to how some people scheme in a very clever manner. I was trying to convince this person I was having lunch with that it's part of our human nature to survive.
Yeah.
And hence some of us have it stronger than the other. And values, how you've been brought up and everything, all of that also plays a huge role.
And I think it's also human nature to have certain responsibility. If you think maybe if one thing that one person can actually manage this massive group of people, a country or a state, there is this desire to just be there and work towards that. Mm-hmm. It's also human nature.
That's right.
So why do not we see her potential and her intent, a good intent, to actually rule China at a time for a better cause.
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose it didn't really help that she was a woman.
Yeah.
So that brought about more obstacles. By the way, Joanna Saw is actually listening to this interview, and she says, I don't know who spoke last, but he sure has a sexy voice. I wasn't imagining Alex. It's Alex Koh. You want to catch Empress Wu the musical because he's a lead actor there. So how have you translated all this information, Kai Loon, that you have gathered, for the musical? And what is the premise of the story exactly for the musical?
Most of my references comes from Western sources. I do have Chinese historical references, but I have two research staff to help me out to translate all those Mandarin texts into English text for me. And I articulate that with the contemporary thinking from the Western sinologists in terms of how they see the contribution of Wu in the whole development of China. And I integrate both visions, both analyses, basically. And I think modern thinking these days have been more of a reappraisal of her contribution. And it's more seen from a more, I would say, a more progressive standpoint, that she essentially is actually a woman who is ruling China for the sake of prosperity and the goodness of the people at heart. And I think a lot of the old histories does not have that element in terms of depicting her life.
Her larger intentions were for the country. Is it completely historically accurate, or have you taken some artistic liberties in putting the story together?
I think I try to stick to the facts a lot, in a sense of where there is some consensus among historians that it does exist. And what happened is that where there are inconsistency among them or differences in opinions, what I do was to pick a position where I think it's more reasonable for me to understand the logical flow of the developments. Where my artistic license come in, where there is actually a kind of inconsistent link between factual information, then I'll take my position of how do I interpret to link from one factual information to the other. And that's where my artistic license comes in. Yeah.
The missing links.
Yeah.
You had 30 years of her life to capture, and you've brought it down, and you're portraying this in just 3 hours. How did you do that? There is a lot to capture.
With great difficulty. That's why I'm losing my hair every day and growing grayer.
I realized over the last 1 year.
Yeah, it does. It shows. It shows.
Because of Empress Wu.
Yeah, all because of Empress Wu. I think at the end of the day, I really hope that when I transform this historical information into a stage play, and compacting it so much, what I want it to do is at the end of the day to basically tell people how an ordinary person, a commoner, because she come from the lowest strata of Chinese society then, because there is at the top the scholars, then you have the peasants at the second rank, third rank are the artisans, and then the last one are the merchants. And she come from merchant class, and that was considered to be the lowest class and looked down upon by society, you know. And how a person in that ordinary class were to able to climb up and be right at the top, not only being a commoner but also being a woman.
That's
so
right.
that is how we tell the story in this production.
She had all the odds against. She had the odds against her, isn't it?
Yes.
All of it. What did you sacrifice? What did you have to sacrifice in the production and not have to portray?
Actually, there are a lot of side plots in the story, and there are some essential characters that I could not afford to insert into the production, basically because the flow would be disrupted if I sidetrack too much. So I have sacrificed of several important historical developments and events that I have to take out just to make sure that I am able to tell the spine of the story, and I let it be intact throughout the whole so-called delivery of the production.
Okay. One unique feature about the musical is that the dialogue will be in English, and the songs and narration will be in Mandarin. Why did you take this approach?
We have done bilingual kind of medium in terms of our communication in our stage work has been essential part of Dama's production. We have traditionally used Chinese as the main medium of communication, and narration will be in English to cater for those who do not understand Mandarin. And we have been doing that format for a long while. So this time around I said, why don't we change and reverse it the other way? The dialogue in English and the sing-song and narration in Mandarin is just a reverse of what we traditionally used to do. Just a lot of fun of it, I guess.
I think you will reach out to a larger audience, don't you think?
We hope so. I don't know.
Based on what we've rehearsed and the songs that we are doing, definitely. Music is universal.
I'm sure. And Empress Wu features about 20 musical numbers composed by Lu Feng Ying and Lu Feng Chiat. What can you tell me about the music and composers? Because the last time in your previous productions, you sort of used commercially available and popularly recognized music.
Maybe Alex, you would like to share your view about the music that was composed?
As a music lover, I'm very excited about the production and the music that's produced for this musical. And I think all of the fellow cast share the same sentiment about the music. I think all of us are very, very excited about music. All of us are very excited and singing it. So I think the score itself is carrying a lot of weight, a lot of positive weight for this musical.
I'm going to play a snippet from Feng Shan. It's a snippet, right? And then you can tell me a little bit more about the music.
元宝鼎啊，一抹不行，如山如浮，如航如林，如窗之房之一抹不折。
Beautiful, I have to say.
Yeah, the overture is
Beautiful.
epic. Let me tell you.
I mean, what are the risks? Because using original music, which the audience have not heard of before, is a little bit of a risk. Am I correct?
Very, very high risk.
Yeah.
I think the essence of a musical, whether it's successful or not, also essentially rests on the music component of it. And if it flops, the whole show will flop as well with it. So that is the big risk that we have to take with us.
Could you tell me a bit about the cast and the crew, besides yourself, Alex?
Yeah.
Who else? Who's playing Empress Wu is the
Empress
question.
Wu is Tan Su-suan, who has a beautiful voice. Beautiful voice. She's a great singer. She's also a vocal teacher for the fellow cast. About her. No, I think we all have
The
a
other cast?
extreme,
How many of
very
you in
good
total?
rapport with each other. I think about 30 of us.
30?
Very good rapport. I can't say a better word for such an organization. It's better than number of better than a lot of companies that I worked with. The system and the rapport and the PR and the management is quite of a very high standard. So I think that helps a lot. That good system helps a lot actually in trying to get a lot of things done at in fact a very short time of period. So it's great. It's a great cast, and I think the director and the producer makes everyone equaled in their commitment. And I think that's very good because whether you play the lead or whether you play the supporting, details must be seen. Yeah.
What were rehearsals like? Strenuous for you?
I have sacrificed a lot of my TV time though now.
I mean, this is the Dama orchestra.
But I think we were talking about it again with some of our fellow cast. A lot says that, in fact, most say that they look forward for the rehearsals, and I do too, because of the bond that we have created among each other. We look forward to acting, we look forward to putting our emotions in the musical. We look forward to hearing the music again. Certain songs, when played during the rehearsals, still create some good, I still get goosebumps.
It does. I mean, they're just that 1 minute, really gives
Yeah.
sets you off on a
Yes,
entirely different
the music
feeling.
is epic.
Yeah.
Now, if those who loves to watch medieval and ancient Chinese stories, this is the musical to go to.
Right. Fantastic. As the director, Kai Loon, I mean, do you have to sort of manage the crew and the cast with a tight fist? I mean, do you have a whip
like Empress
with
Wu?
Alex, you better say that.
Is it like communist like?
Maybe it's better for a third party to say that, yeah.
Yeah.
Sincerity and honesty.
I mean, there has to be a certain amount of discipline.
Yes. But I think all this discipline and occasional iron fist is understood because it's a big group. and you can't please everyone, and you don't expect the director to please every single cast, and so sometimes I think, but I think the maturity in the group is very well developed, and I think we all are. We worked very well with each other. We worked very well with the director, and the director gives excellent direction. Yeah.
And
we have actually a very excellent cast in this production, and it's very enjoyable for me to work with them, really.
right, and you're the set designer, Kai Loon, as well as the director. What can you tell me about the set?
I have to be very budget conscious.
I'm sure you do.
The whole project cost has gone out of assigned allocation. But at the end of the day, I think we need to, because we have a good cast, we have a good musical scoring, and I think that the script is good. So the sets must also match with that. And the issue for me is really, the challenge is really, how do I make a set that is worthy of what they are producing on stage, and yet not spent in terms of budgeting, really.
Okay, was that a big challenge for you?
Very. Because the first thing Alex told me was, "Oh, we expect something grand." I said, "Oh no, when you start talking about grand, you are talking about money at the end of the day, really."
Somehow I get this feeling the music is going to matter the most, or it's going to hit the audience more
You
than
should come and
everything
watch the
else.
costume as well.
Ah,
Yes,
okay.
original costume. These are not costumes that you buy from souvenir shops in China.
No, I'll give you more credit for that.
No. The costumes are all original. We've tried fit an excellent costume.
I can't wait. I mean, I've got a whole month to schedule this into my calendar, so it's no excuse really on the part of anyone. What are you, both of you, up to after this? Any plans as yet, or are you just going to recover from the production of
Alex?
Empress Wu first?
Me, go back making shoes.
Make
lor.
more shoes.
Continue to make shoes.
He's probably catching up with all his TV series.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take a short break and then probably get back to work again for the next 2 years production.
Okay. All that said, I'm going to still ask you for your final sell as to why we should all come and watch this show, the musical.
I think it would worth the time and the money spent on this original piece of work, because as a package you really have good music, a good cast performance, you have good storyline, good costume, and brilliant music, and very fine entertainment.
When one comes and sees this production, one will feel very proud being a Malaysian, because we Malaysians can produce a musical that is actually on par with Western musicals. I have seen Western musicals, and I have been working with many companies, and I think Dama production is a well systematic company. The way they do things are very systematic, and that itself can be a success to the musicals and the other shows that they produce.
Right. If it is a huge, and I'm sure it will be a huge success, Kai Loon, do you think you will be taking this abroad?
Hope so.
Yep. And I'm sure you will. Thank you both very much for joining me. Empress Wu, the musical, will be staged from the 27th of September all the way up to the 21st of October at Pentas 1 of the Kuala Lumpur Performing Arts Centre, located in Central Park. Our tickets are priced from 68 ringgit all the way up to 278 ringgit, and you can call KL Pack at 0340479000 or do visit elasotickets.com to purchase your tickets. For more information, you can also visit either damaorchestra.com or klpack.org. And you know what? I'm going to agree with Ivan, who has texted in to say it's beautiful music, it's beautiful songs, beautiful orchestra. Please play it again. And I'm going to do just that. And thank you once again for joining me.
Thank you, Mira.
眼抱定儿，一抹不行。如山如浮，如航如林，如川之放之，一抹不折。
BFM 89.9, the business station.